Hello, good evening again. I do thank you for tuning back in to Poem Praise 2. And we are definitely going to move right along with our extraordinary African Americans. Next is Charles Richard Drew, a physician and a scientist during the time period of 1904 to 1950. And for him, this is the information that I have for you today. That thousands of American soldiers lost their lives in World War II, but thousands more stayed alive, though gravely wounded because of the medical research and dedication of Charles Richard Drew. Now, born and raised in Washington, D.C., Drew attended Amherst College, where he was an All-American football player. Now, following graduation, he took a job at Morgan College as a biology teacher and an athletics director. Although Drew brought Morgan's basketball and football teams up to championship level, a medical career was what he really wanted. He applied to McGill University Medical School in Montreal, Canada, and was accepted. While there, he became interested in the study of blood and how to preserve it. All people have one of four blood types: A, B, AB, or O. Should an injured person need a blood transfusion, it is important that the blood he receives be of his own type and that it match, or be compatible with his own blood. In the 1930s, many patients died because not enough blood of the right type and match could be found quickly enough. The problem was further complicated by the fact that blood spoils rapidly, making it very difficult to store. Drew became fascinated with the problem of preserving blood. Shortly after graduation from McGill, he moved to New York to do graduate study at Columbia Medical School and to work as a surgical resident at Presbyterian Hospital. While there, he performed numerous experiments on the physical, chemical, and biological changes that make blood unusable for transfusion. He learned that while whole blood could not be stored longer than 1 week, blood plasma, the liquid portion of the blood without blood cells, kept much longer. Meanwhile, the war raged in Europe. Nazi bombers were attacking England daily, and the number of casualties was growing steadily. In August 1940, the Blood for Britain project was set up to make more blood available. The program ran into serious trouble almost immediately. Different hospitals were using different standards for collecting and processing blood. As a result, much of the plasma reaching England was contaminated and had to be thrown out. It was then that Drew received a cablegram from Dr. John Beatty, head of shock treatment and transfusion for the Royal Air Force in England. His emergency message asked Drew to ship 10,000 pints of plasma to him within 1 month. It seemed like an impossible task, but Drew did it. Soon afterward, he became the medical supervisor of the Blood for Britain program and standardized procedures for collecting, processing, storing, and shipping plasma. Due to the success of his program, Drew was appointed Red Cross director of a nationwide project to collect blood for the U.S. military. The project was going well until the Red Cross decided it did not want any colored blood. Such a racist policy made no sense from a scientific or medical point of view. In an angry September 26, 1942 editorial, the Chicago Defender said, "No Negro blood accepted, but when the terrible Blitz raids of London killed and wounded thousands, it was an American Negro surgeon who organized and sent U.S. blood plasma overseas. No Negro blood accepted, but when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and maimed hundreds of American soldiers and sailors, it was blood collected by a Negro surgeon that saved their lives." Yeah, we could just marinate on that and let it ponder the thought. It was purpose. The work had to go on. It was purpose regardless what fight was coming against him. He definitely had a purpose, and he had to keep fighting for the delivery of the purpose of the plasma. It was about saving lives, right? Right, it was about saving lives. Now, back to Charles Drew. Because of this kind of protest, the military agreed to accept colored blood, but insisted that it be kept separate from blood donated by whites. To Drew, this directive was unacceptable, and he resigned from the blood program. On April 1st, 1950, Drew was killed in an automobile accident while on his way to a medical conference. Only a year earlier, he had been appointed surgical consultant for the U.S. Army European Theater of Operations. The Army, which had not wanted to accept his blood, had at least recognized the value of his advice. So certainly it planted a seed, right? Well, I do thank you for tuning in and listening to our extraordinary African American Charles Drew during the time period for Mr. Drew, 1904 to 1950. Our next extraordinary African American that's coming up is going to be Jackie Robinson, a baseball player during the time period of 1919 to 1972. So please stay tuned and be blessed until I holler at you in a little bit, all right? All right. Later, y'all.